we're talking about stress immunity today, and really it's thinking about how we can build up a point that where we're faced with stress, we're going to be able to have a robust sense of immunity to it, so that we can switch off from it essentially. Okay. And a lot of the stress responses that we tend to have tend to come from other people. So you'll often hear people say, look, if you just left me alone, I'd be fine. So someone says one thing or does one thing, or we see something and boom, we're in a stress point. And if that hadn't happened, we can say, well, if we hadn't got that trigger, we wouldn't have had the issue. Okay. Now, I mean, typical things that have happened, and some of you may have seen this slide before, but I always think it's just an interesting one to look at, is this is what's going on in your brain right now. Okay, it's a series of electrical impulses that are being triggered by stimuli. So seeing things, hearing things, feeling things causes a reaction within the brain. Okay, and it creates what we call neural pathways. And neural pathways are default ways of responding to situations. So if you are faced with a barking dog, that will send a signal to your brain saying danger, and you need to take cover. You need to, it's the fight or flight response, but you need to move away. And they're learned behaviors. For anyone who has, say, like you, Samantha, a 2-year-old, they see a barking dog, they might think the dog wants to play because they don't know what danger looks like, because that neural pathway hasn't been formed with the individual. Okay. So this would literally be the inside of the brain, and just in terms of that, the pathways all shooting around. So once a pathway is formed, it becomes a hardwired learned behavior. So if I know that a certain behavior exhibited by somebody else is a negative behavior, I will straight away go into a defensive mode. Okay, it's just what will happen because I'm ready to react. And that in essence is a stress response. Okay. Now, some of the studies and what we know. So University of California found that if someone in your visual field is anxious, it triggers a stress response. So anyone that you're working with, anyone you're dealing with, anyone you're on the phone to, so like for yourself, Uriah, you've got someone on the phone going, I'm not happy with this roster, I don't want to do this roster, straight away that's going to trigger something in you. Okay. So 26% of people will have demonstrated higher levels of cortisol. So cortisol is the stress hormone that will tend to elevate levels of adrenaline through the body and get us, it speeds up the respiratory system, the heart rate, because we're ready to react. Okay. Simple example that happens if you're in a taxi and the taxi driver has a bit of a road rage incident. Anyone had that experience? Yeah, and it's Hong Kong. How do you feel for the rest of that taxi journey?
Uneasy. You're anxious about being in the car, yeah.
Exactly. It's like, get me the hell out of here, because my stress response, even though it's nothing to do with you, you're sitting in the back, what's happening in the front with the driver is absolutely nothing to do with you, but you will have that uneasy feeling. I thought an interesting finding for this, in the case of a romantic partner, it brings it up to 40%. Okay. So you come into your house in the evening, or you've maybe been in your house all day because of the situation, and one person is stressed within the house. That's a really, really high likelihood to come across you. We see it in simple things, what's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with me. Well, you look like there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. Why are you always telling me there's something wrong with me? Blah, blah, etc., etc. Okay. So those stress responses will happen very easily. Even watching something on TV can increase the stress. So even thinking about what you're actually going to watch these days, the more, what the research says, the more far removed from your life a TV show is, the less likely you are to feel stress from it. So for example, if you watch something like, I don't know, like say an Irish soap opera like Fair City, which is probably very Dublin centric, but you can probably relate to the characters in it quite easily because, they're Irish and they speak with similar accents to us and so on, people you see every day, as against, say, watching a show like, I don't know, Breaking Bad over in the States, which would have a lot of kind of stress moments, but really most of us can't relate to Albuquerque or drug dealing, I hope. So those stresses tend to be more removed from us. So it's just thinking about what's the exposure that I have to stressed people, and asking yourself that. Think about the people you talk to every day. And that includes friends and family. Like if I'm on the phone to someone and they're insistent on talking about the impending end of the world due to the COVID-19, that's probably not a good person for me to talk to. I mean, look, you might have to, it could be your mom or your dad, and that they want to blow off some steam and you got to do it. And that's, we have to do it. But just think about the people that you're talking to all the time. Okay. Think about the exposure that you get, and don't be afraid to challenge. So, if in the house, if someone's having a low day, don't be afraid to challenge in a constructive, empathetic way to try and bring them out of it. So if someone is very stressed, ask them, look, seem a bit stressed. I'm here if you want to talk to me. And you can leave it at that, but leave the choice with them. Okay. But what this study showed, that was probably the most interesting piece, is that just simply seeing stress will cause stress in us every time. And because the world at this point in time is so stressed, the likelihood of this happening is huge. Okay. Even I know I'm always banging on about the news and media, but I was listening to news on the radio the other day, and there's a newscaster, she's been there forever, Eileen Dunn. And I'm not bashing Eileen Dunn, but I was thinking about the tone of voice with which she reads the news, and I was going, it is so negative, it is so down, it is there's no upbeat to it. And I was thinking, when you deliver a negative story with that tone of voice, straight away that negative vibe is going to be increased and enhanced by you. So even the tone of voice can have a huge impact on it. So look, what's it look like? Results from our subconscious ability to detect a threat. So going back to the piece we were saying about the brain, okay? So think about someone in your life. Is there anyone in your life that as soon as you see them, you feel a heightened sense of stress? Would anybody have that? Anyone? You don't have to name them. You can simply just nod. Yeah, you don't have to, okay, so you're on me, yeah. Most of us will. Most of us will. Someone comes in the door and you go, oh my God, I hope they don't. Or you see the phone ringing and it's like, oh no, it's that person calling me. Oh, I hope they're going to be, oh. So it's a learned response. But the thing is that's being a learned response. We're straight away into our fight or flight mode. So we know this person is a threat. Therefore, we are responding. Now we have got heightened elevation. That means we are likely to be giving off stress back to them. And when you give stress back to stress, it creates a more stressful situation. You can't fight with someone who doesn't fight back with you. You kind of run out of steam on that one pretty quickly. So it can be seen in very subtle things. So breath rate. So someone's breathing fast. We pick up these things. So our brains are very, very well tuned in through evolution and through learned behavior. But we can pick up simply by looking at someone. You'll see it yourself all the time. You could be in the office and you might be saying, Mary over there looks like she's not having a great day. Not because she has said anything, but you're picking up all the cues that are there. Eye contact, how much or how little is the person giving? Perspiration, and this is one of the interesting things. You can actually smell stress even though you don't know it. So there's a study in the University of Vienna, and it said that stress causes people to sweat special stress hormones. So you can actually pick up the vibe from somebody else, even at a subconscious level. And that's just one part of the puzzle, because it's not about whether or not you can pick up the stress from someone else. It's what you do with that information. How do you recreate that neural pathway so that it doesn't lead you down a road to a stress situation? And that's the key thing to be thinking about here. So ask yourself a question. Where is this person at on the stress scale on a 1 to 10? Therefore, what's the best way for me to react to them in order to try and diffuse this situation? Okay. So look, interesting, a number of businesses, there's been some commercial impact on this. So the Ritz-Carlton, Ostener Health Group as well, they've come up with, they were well into this study and were looking into it. And they said, well, we realized the counterproductive issues that can happen during a stressed working environment. So Ritz-Carlton, 5-star hotel chain, people go there to be pampered and relaxed. If you come in and there's some staff member having a blazing row with someone on the phone, it's probably not going to set the scene right for you. And again, given that that's an infectious thing, so if someone's having a row on the phone, I therefore feel stressed there because of that. That's a negative vibe that's there. So they've developed a vent-free zone. So certain zones of their business are vent-free areas, which means that if you feel the need to vent on someone, You can't do it in certain places. So in the hotel, it would be in any of the public areas, in the offices for us, it would be in any of the open plan areas. But again, it's a recognition that if I see one person having a row, that's going to affect so many people all around you. So think about this in relation to your teams. Think about this in terms of the conversations that you have. Even if it's on a Zoom meeting, if you're picking up that someone is having a negative day, don't be afraid. You don't have to point it at that point in time. You can do something subtle like change the subject, but don't be afraid to pick it up with them afterwards. And then they can vent. Then they can have a go at you if they need to. Okay, but just think about the time and the place that's going to work for you. So what can you do? So research from the Yale Center for Emotion Intelligence said positive mindsets lead to a 23% drop in negative effects of stress. Who's been through the positive psychology work with me? Some of you have. Samantha, I think you've done it. There's loads of work on, and look, you can Google all this stuff, positive psychology, the Seligman 5-stage model around it. But creating a positive mindset is going to lead to a huge drop. So it's a very simple rule. If I feel good, if I'm in great form, I'm a lot less likely to have a stress response to a situation. So what you're doing is you're elevating yourself up so that you might be brought down, but you'll only be brought down so far. You won't be, because if you're starting here and then you're brought down here, then that's a more difficult place to get out of. So it's asking yourself, how do I replace that? Replace anger with compassion. So if someone is annoying you, so Uriah, if you've got someone on the phone and they're saying, this roster is terrible, I hate it, I can't believe I have to do this. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Say, look, I can hear this roster is really stressing you out. Is there something going on? Look, tell me what the issue is. Now, we'll do what we can within the situation. But to lead back with that, or to ask them for a proposal about what to do. Look, okay, so look, what would work for you? And maybe you can find a middle ground somewhere in relation to that. But coming back with a question rather than a statement is a huge way to diffuse anger. Okay, simple steps. So we've got three simple steps here. Number one, create positive antibodies. So again, we hear a lot of stuff around antibodies at the moment and creating antibodies for anything like that. So what we can say here is that return anger with a smile or silence, which means suddenly you have the power. Someone's having a go at you. If you smile back at them, it can just, as I say, smiling is infectious in the same way as stress is. So just think about that. Or silence. If someone is venting, let them vent. Give them the space to do it. Because what that does is they diffuse like a balloon and then you have the power. Ask permission to have the conversation. So if you have a point you want to make, say to them, look, can I just tell you how things are from our perspective? Wait for a silence. They will say yes, and then you can talk about it. But taking the pace out of it means that you can do it. But when we talk about creating positive antibodies, these are learned behaviors. It's like learning any new skill. Building natural immunity. Think about your own self-esteem. Remind yourself of things that are going well. So this is the whole thing about heightening your own positive emotion. So reminding yourself of the things that you have to be thankful of, things that are going to feel good. Exercise, and I keep talking about exercise, okay? So every time you complete a session, your brain will go, fair play to you, you got out and you did it, whatever it is. So self-esteem, remind yourself of the good things, ask yourself how you're feeling, take something and put something in play that's going to elevate the esteem as high as it is. As I say, if you're in great form, if you're in a really good mood, it can be very hard for someone to take you down. And you will look to solve the problem and work with them rather than contradict them, okay? So inoculate yourself, start your day right. Simple things you can do. And again, there's more on the article when Kev sends it on to you. But put a 2-minute email praising someone you know. So think about someone in your life who is adding value, okay? Again, someone who you know has had a tough time getting to where they are in terms of doing the work and delivering the work. Send them an email or a text just praising them. Say, look, thanks, everything you're doing, hugely appreciated. It tends to make you feel better as well as make them feel better. 3 things for which you're grateful. Write down 3 things every day, every week for which you are grateful in your life to remind you. When you write it down, what happens is you have to process it, you have to write it, it's presented back to your eyes, and then your brain processes it again. So it makes it stick. We can often forget the things that are good in our lives because the things that are negative, your brain is scrambling to try and solve. So that takes up all the capacity. Okay. Keep a journal of the positive experiences because you can look back at it. Think about the days that have gone really well. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what was really good today that happened? What were the things that put a smile on my face? And then you look to repeat those things. So if I say, well, look, I did one thing, I had a chat with someone, and actually, you know, I was laughing for half an hour with them. That was great. I'll have to do more of that. Consciously do more of that. Okay. Do the exercise. So cardio exercise for 30 minutes. So go for a walk, a run, something just to get the heart rate up. Okay. Heart rate goes up. We tend to feel the endorphins through a natural high. We get that runner's high. We will feel good about it. Meditate. Okay. So again, mindfulness, meditation. We did a little mindfulness exercise there a couple of weeks ago with yourselves. Any of those exercises, there's lots of apps out there on your phone that you can use. But again, when we talk about inoculating yourself, if you start the day right, you're starting up here. Now, as the day goes on, you might come down a bit. But if I only start here and I'm coming down from here, that's a much higher risk place to be. So ask yourself, what is it I need to do to bring my day up to a high point so that if I do get chipped away during the day, I've got the armor on me that's going to allow that to happen.